Hello, and welcome to this week's program of the Rotary E-Club of Silicon Valley. My name is Farheen, and I thank you all for joining today. Each week, we connect with and hear from speakers who usually have a message focused on our love for innovation, entrepreneurship, and education. Today, we have an exciting presentation from Briana Franklin, a businesswoman and philanthropist on a mission to eradicate the $1.6 trillion student debt crisis. After graduating college with over $100,000 in debt, she experienced the challenges of grappling with the exorbitant monthly payments, which were further escalated through lack of success in securing well-paying full-time work and ultimately having to abandon her previous entrepreneurial pursuits. Through the Prosperity Project, she takes immense pride in crafting the solution that will provide Black girls and Black women in the US with the resources to achieve higher rates of success, all the while putting an end to the threat of student debt. With that said, Briana, please take it away.
All right, nice to meet everyone. Thank you so much for having me. First of all, I'm very honored just to be asked to be a guest and to speak to this wonderful group. As Farheen mentioned, I am excited to share with you the Prosperity Project and the work that we're doing. So on that note, let's get started. All right. So here's our intro slide, of course. Our motto is pursuing prosperity by defeating disparity. And I'm going to just zip through some of the slides because admittedly this is not a truncated version. So just to keep within the parameters of the presentation, I'll taper it down just to the key points here. But here's the overview and why we exist. So our why, we believe in starting with why as advised by Simon Sinek. It's because Black women deserve to lead accomplished, abundant lives, yet due to systemic injustice fueled by misogynoir, which is the intersection of racism and sexism, they experience the most difficulty in doing so. And our mission is dedicated to empowering Black girls and women in the US with tools for financial, professional / entrepreneurial and holistic success. Here's our vision statement, which again is kind of lengthy, so I'll move past that. And getting into the challenges that Black women face. So we are the most economically disenfranchised group. We are the most suppressed and underrepresented in business and entrepreneurship. And we are also at the greatest risk of complications with health and wellness. So trying to tackle issues on those fronts. To break down financial disparity in more detail, we are $35 billion in student loan debt collectively, which, as Farheen mentioned in the intro, is a byproduct of the greater $1.6 trillion in student debt. That also is compounded by having a 35% average financial literacy rate, which is the lowest of any demographic. And we are paid among the least at 62 cents on the dollar. So there's already a great wealth disparity, which sets up for a very dismal livelihood. And then our solution is our economic empowerment initiative. So this is a program that we have designed and curated to address all of the previously mentioned issues and more. And the motto here is taking America's Black women beyond debt free. So there's four main components. The first is 100% student debt relief through a retroactive scholarship, as we're calling it, one-on-one personalized financial education, and career accelerator, as well as a paying it forward component, which we recently termed generational generosity. So the first piece is intake and the relief. So we interview and have an application screening for interested parties to apply and become a Prosperette, which is our term for beneficiaries. Those who meet the criterion are selected to interview. From that point, we would issue disbursement. Financial coaching goes for the course of 12 months, along with the career accelerator. So they'll meet with all the different individuals, coaches, career guides, people to help with resume review, mock interviews, all those great things. And then we have a Juneteenth graduation ceremony, which we're looking to plan, very excited about, and that'll just be an annual recognition of all of their stellar accomplishments. And then the pay it forward piece is how we foster longevity and generational generosity. So our Prosperettes have the opportunity to pay it back by giving their time as a volunteer, their money to sponsor a future Prosperette, or expertise as a mentor to a Prosperette in future program cycles. In terms of demographics, this is the general type of individual that we serve. Of course, we don't have a set in stone, like hard cutoff in terms of age or anything, but of course, must be a Black woman with college or with institutionally accredited debt. So even if they didn't finish college, just having gotten student loans from a US based lender, high debt to income ratio, extenuating circumstances, seeking to transition into a new career trajectory or entrepreneurship, and above all else, very passionate about impacting and serving the community around them. So here are a few examples of our Prosperettes. Just for time's sake, going to skim a bit through them, but you can see the overview. This last one here has $294,000 in student loan debt. So the fluctuation in this cohort is between 13,000 and this number. So it's pretty drastic on the more extreme ends. And then by the numbers, we have 22 women in this initial cohort who have an average of 78K in student debt and $1.7 million combined in student debt. This is our systemic equity chart, so that's getting a little into the weeds. I'll skip past that to show how this is going to manifest in the sense of transforming work environments. So of course, we're fast tracking each Prosperette by cutting out the middleman of them having to go and seek out and start from scratch of just trying to network and figure out how to make it into their dream companies, their dream positions. So we connect them with the suppliers, and if there's a need, they'll have the opportunity to go through the process. So it's not like they're skipping the line, but rather it just is easier to get in line, so to speak. And then they'll receive personalized training. Diversity then is on the rise. And then as a result, systemic equity is achieved and sustained, which is what we're ultimately targeting. In terms of market validation, so here are just a couple of the statistics surrounding Black women in the student debt crisis context. Carry $33,000, which is above the average for white borrowers. And then 111% of Black women's income, it goes to student loan debt just because interest rates far surpass their revenue. And then their average lifetime net worth is between $0 and $11,000. They're 5 times more likely to default. And then a study showed that 12 years post-graduation, Black women owe 13% more, whereas their white male counterparts owed 44% less. So quite a few alarming things there. Skipping past this, this is more just market, and as we plan to diversify and become a for-profit or have a for-profit leg as well. So these are the other organizations that we learn from, Black Girls Code, Black Lives Matter, and as you can see here, the UNCF. So we've taken tips from each of them to develop our model. Publicity. So we were recently featured in Forbes last month, and we've also been profiled by a number of publications, including Authority Magazine, Noyota Magazine, and we've been featured as presenters at Dartmouth College's Magnuson Center for Entrepreneurship, General Assembly, and the Wave Tour hosted by the Changing Tides Movement. And this is our long-term plan. So just to be very succinct here, we're planning to scale to where we have at least 250 Prosperettes annually. We'd like to have a national presence in terms of our operations. And currently we're a team of 45. So we'd like to be able to house more team members as we continue to expand. And then, and with the to do as much as we can to make a dent in the greater $1.6 trillion crisis as well. Here's our founding 5. So myself, our COO, Victoria, our Chief Business Development Officer, Ashley, our CTO, Matt, and our Chief Programming Officer, Corey. For time's sake, gonna skip past the bios. And then here's our advisory board, Mark Avery, who is with Fat Brands and has been in an executive level working with Fortune 500 companies, including those listed here. Damani is our advisor and also kind of like a big brother. He's been really instrumental in helping us build out our approach and also know how to navigate the financial literacy space due to his background in Wall Street and also his contacts in the entertainment world. To that end, we've been able to secure donations from a few notable individuals, including Katrina Lake, who is the founder and CEO of Stitch Fix, Russ Carson, who is co-founder and general partner of Welsh, Carson, Anderson, and Stowe, and also a multi-billion-dollar philanthropist who is a restaurant heiress. Notable endorsers that we've had in terms of social media attraction, Imani Hakim, who is an actress most known for her role in Everybody Hates Chris, and then also Rachel Dratch, who has a very tenured acting career. We're very excited to get her seal of approval, and being a Dartmouth alum, like myself and several of our team members. And then in terms of what we're aiming for, so our financial goals are, as you can see, pretty auspicious, but this is because we don't see a reason why we can't or shouldn't try to help every applicant. Right now we have demand already building for young women who are looking to apply to our next cohort round. So this is just the overview of those numbers. Justification, which really just breaks down to needing to extend our runway, take care of our team, and further fortify the EEI for being able to help more Prosperettes. So to get involved, of course, we'd love for anyone who feels so compelled to become a donor. Our website is the Prosperity Project, prosperity with an A.org/donations. 80% of all funding we receive goes to our EEI. Donation tiers are as listed, so everywhere from Hope Giver all the way up to Hero and Heroine. We have our Defeating Disparity movement, which we started last fall as a way to just get ourselves out there, catch attention with this vibrant pink square you see here. And then certainly we're welcoming volunteers. We need help specifically with site development as well as community relations. So certainly reach out if that would be of interest. And here is all of our information. So our Instagram handle is at the Prosperity Project. Twitter is at Prosperity Proj. Our email and website are as you see here, and then Prosperity Project on these 3 channels below. And some final words from the presentation. When Black women win victories, it is a boost for virtually every segment of society, as spoken by the iconic Angela Davis. So on that note, here's to defeating disparity together. Thank you so much.
Briana, thank you so much for your wonderful presentation. Before we go into the question and answer period, I want to quickly introduce the other members on the call. So when I say your name, please wave. So we have Nick in British Columbia, Cal in Oakland, Cecilia in Sunnyvale, Rory, who was here, but he disappeared, but Rory's in Houston, Rushton in San Jose, Sandy in Fremont, Shags in Walnut Creek, Jens in Germany, and finally, my baby sister, Samia in Santa Clara, and special shout out to her for connecting me to Briana. So with that said, the first question, I believe, Nick, go ahead.
Thank you so much for your presentation. I really appreciate it, and I love that you're tying together a lot of different statistics I hear, but then don't know who's doing something about it. So I like that. I was curious about, and you answered part of my initial question was, how did you start? How did you get funded? And I'd love to hear a bit more story about the, okay, so the 5 founders
Yes.
wanted to do something. How did you get to the point where you then connected with all the people you listed that were assisting you? Like, where did you start?
That's a great question. It really caught me by surprise because I, at no point in my life, thought I would be, working in the nonprofit space, let alone forming one. This journey came about through actually as matters of the nation / June. At that same time, I had made contact with a longtime idol of mine who was looking to make her brands more inclusive and diverse. And so I put in a bid, and as I built out those that survey and got data, I realized that, wait a minute, these issues are squarely falling onto one demographic, and I obviously embody that demographic and have lived these issues myself. Since graduating in 2017, I was very hyper aware of the student debt crisis. Just when I finally put the number together myself a year later, I was actually too afraid because of how large I knew it was to get an actual figure. So I didn't know it was at 115 until a year after graduating. So that combined with my lack of ability to become stable in corporate America, for the life of me could not get a stable full-time consistent job, just contracts and temp work. And then wanting to start a business and just basically having to press pause because I needed to bring in money, and then working part-time jobs. So really, I just was able to tie 3 years of confusion and an unconventional trajectory all into this one experience that is able to help others who are dealing with the same issues. So I called on Matt, who I've known since ninth grade, also Victoria, our COO. We all went to high school together. Corey, I went to college with, and then Ashley, I'd already been connected with on LinkedIn. So I just sent her a message and she's like, I'd love to be involved. So just organically, it came about as the five of us. And then within just a few weeks, we were starting to, amass attention and donations for our first campaign. And then by the end of last year, we ended up closing with about $35,000 raised.
Nice. And the following question I have is just understanding, is the effort in money going to these people to help them prosper by maybe eliminating the student debt, or is it the other side of it I heard is, which obviously can pay dividends over time, is that connection and networking that allows them to ideally land the better job with the better pay that has less disparity? Is it both? Is one more of a focus, one less of a focus?
That's a great question. Like, we've prioritized it in terms of fundraising to make the debt relief the first focus, but we know that where the long-term effect will go is the education they receive, because we actually interviewed Black women in October for Debt Free Fridays on our Instagram channel, and they were almost unanimously saying once they had paid off their student loan debt, that was the theme, is like they themselves had already paid off their loans. They were like, all my financial discipline went out the window. One was like, I ended up paying on my car 4 years longer than I would have if I kept up that same discipline and kept that muscle still, trained to just know how to be very judicious with my money and not just go on free for all. So we try to stress to the Prosperettes, like, yes, we know it's exciting to get those debt relief payments, and that is where the bulk of our financial resources do go. But in terms of the expenditure energy wise and from a programming standpoint, it's all about reinforcing and educating on financial literacy principles.
Nice. Cool. Thank you.
Sure thing.
Great. So the next question is from Cal, and I'll read it. It's in the chat. So, understanding this was an abbreviated presentation, could you explain more about how the debt is eliminated? Is it solely through donor contributions, or are the clients connected to revenue/job opportunities? Thank you.
Yeah, so as of right now, we are donor reliant, and that's just because, again, we're only 7 months old. So we've been moving fast and trying to diversify. As I touched on briefly, we're building out an S Corp counterpart so that we can drive in revenue through merchandise sales and just a bit more free market, and have that revenue. We haven't determined the percentage, but certainly the vast majority will be funneled into the nonprofit. And then that way we can have multiple pillars to stand on. But just to make sure I understand the question, so it is, how much is donor reliance? If you wouldn't mind repeating it back, I think I kind of lost my train of
Sure.
thought.
Yeah, sure. Let me clarify. What I'm looking for to understand, you answered it partly in the financial
Mhm.
education part, which I'm 110% in favor of, because we really need to do that across the board for everyone. Just trying to understand a little better about, how does an individual pay down their debt? Is it only through the contributions that come from your donors, or are you doing it? It sounds like maybe in a combination of some pay down from donors and some additional contribution from the client themselves based on their newfound financial discipline. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, so I see what you're saying. So it right now is being supplied through the donations. So the monies that we've received, we actually have raised enough to award full debt relief to the Prosperettes with the two lowest debt amounts. But as we continue on, we are looking to partner up with organizations that can factor that in, because we've seen that a lot of companies are now making that a perk, like being able to award student debt relief as, like they would with health benefits or vacation pay or something along those lines. But in these more, early going stages, it's been just, as we get money, we actually are funneling it directly to the lender. So it's not like we're writing checks to the Prosperettes, but we get their lender details on file and then we issue them ourselves.
I'm not sure I've made the question clear. What I'm trying to understand is more the participation on the part of the Prosperette. In other words, if people come to you, let's simplify. If people come to you and you just say, okay, and you pay off their debt, that hasn't solve the problem in total.
Not
And
at
when
all.
you said you do financial training,
Mhm.
then that gets them into hopefully a long time financial discipline that will result in them having more financial independence and control in their life.
Yes.
So I was trying to understand more about how you have the Prosperette participate and evolve themselves into a person who maybe is more resistant to taking on debt and better at paying it off.
Okay, yes. So just in the programming, our financial literacy coaches, we have actually Mentor Works, which is the financial literacy module. So that ranges everything from credit score to investing to home owning and all those things. We're really making sure that the Prosperettes, take the program seriously, which is why it's not like it's just an upfront like payment and then everyone's on the honor system. Like, hopefully you follow through. We take however much they owe. So say someone owes 120,000 in student debt, we divide it into 12ths, and then we pay on that as they go and as they remain accountable to the program. So we're going to have checkpoints. We have a financial literacy benchmark where we're going to test them at the beginning, perhaps quarterly, and then certainly at the end of their 12 months with us, and then be able to use those metrics to substantiate their financial education and how much they've grown, how much they're taking with them, what they're applying. And then also from the career standpoint, making sure that based on the goals that they've articulated, they're remaining accountable to meeting those along the way. So it's not like we just give that away and then just hope for the best. Like we keep them with us every step of the way. Sorry that took so many rounds to answer.
Great. And then we have one last question from Rustin.
Hey, thanks for the presentation. It's really cool to see such a bold effort. You're taking on something big, which is cool because that gets people in the space of, tell me more about it, right?
Mhm.
I would think that another element of getting the word out there is the stories of the Prosperettes, right?
Yeah.
And so I'm curious kind of how you're thinking about shareable stories of effect, right? So when you think about the different people who are in the program, how are they working with you to help tell the story of what you are trying to do?
That's a great question. And we actually have a gallery for that. It's our Prosperette gallery, which is a Canva file and pretty much just has one pagers of each Prosperette. So it shows, the extent of what they're trying to accomplish. It shows how much student debt they currently have, of course. And then also it has a section that has their path to prosperity, so to speak. So we've interviewed them all extensively. I think right now we're in the third round of conversations through our chief programs officer, Corey. And she's just been ascertaining from them, what exactly is it that you're looking to do? Because before it was, what's your student debt story? And then it was, what's the gist of your professional situation? And now it's like, how realistically do you plan to pivot? And what is it that we can do and we can provide to you through our offerings? And they have some really compelling stories. One actually, so Joanna, the one with 294K in debt, she currently is a pharmacist and, she enjoys it so, moderately. I think she really went that route because that's what she thought was the right way to go. She's from Haiti. With her peers growing up not being able to attend college and get an opportunity to pursue their education. So she wanted to achieve that for herself, but then the debt became a huge drawback. And so now she's almost kind of gridlocked into staying the pharmacy route just to break even on those payments. But I asked her, I was like, if you didn't have student debt to worry about, what would you want to do? She's like, I would love to open a cafe and just be able to like give joy through baking. And to me, I'm like, that is just the purest thing in this world. Like it's, very cool. And I think that once she's able to stabilize, she certainly could do it. And we're hoping to connect her with a prominent baker in the South, who I've visited her bakery numerous times. But just stories like those, I'd say for a lot of reasons, she's certainly an extreme just from her debt amount and also wanting to make such a broad jump. But other stories range from, working in like the medical field. We have one who's an aspiring film star. She wants to be a producer and, create movies. And we have some who want to go into talent casting for Disney, Nickelodeon. So it's really just being able to remove the hurdles and get them into a position where they can be their most impactful selves and do the work that's going to influence and help their community the most.
Great, thank you. So seeing as we're just about out of time, Rotary members and guests, please make sure you fill out the attendance section and leave us a comment below. And so, yeah, thank you again, Briana, so much for this wonderful presentation. And I will turn it back to you for your final words.
Thank you so much. Yes, you guys asked some really insightful questions, and I appreciate your engagement and just really wanting to delve more into why we started this, what we're doing, and how we're making tangible impact. Because what we, above all else, want to make sure is that we're not just some empty void where we're just like collecting money and no one really knows where it's going or what effect it's going to have. We want to be transparent every step of the way. And, we're constantly stuck in this crossroads of wanting to act with urgency but not rush. So, we're doing things the right way, and it's a bit of a waiting game in terms of course, raising the funds needed to make impact for all 22, but just other forms of support we received. Again, publicity, people shouting us out on social media, folks like Farheen and Samia being so kind as to, giving us a platform such as this. It makes a huge difference. And a year ago, I couldn't have even imagined I'd be in this spot. I had just moved to the Bay. I was trying to figure it out. I had just picked up in my 2 suitcases, moved from Atlanta to San Francisco, and was like, I don't know what awaits me, but I think something great. And then just finally getting to this stage last summer and seeing like, this is what I was put on earth to do and create. It just feels great to see so many people being impacted by it and responding to it positively. So thank you.
Briana, thank you so much. And to the rest of you, I will see you all next week.